Hey, do you want to see how I turn this into that? Or that into this? Or maybe you just want to roast my editing process? Well, you're in luck, because today we're going to go over how I edit my concert photos. Well, the continuity cops probably noticed that I'm wearing a different shirt and I'm not drinking from a coffee cup anymore. That's because I filmed that intro 2 weeks ago and then filmed this section about 3 or 4 times. I had no idea what to talk about. So I decided I'm just gonna go over some of the scenarios that I see a lot when I'm shooting concerts and how I go about editing the photos. All right, the first scenario I wanted to cover is when you blow out an image. If you look here, we got 2 large sections where our highlights are clipped. And you can tell in the histogram here by this wall that moves back and forth when we change our exposure. Now, you're never gonna get this information back, but we can make it look a little more pleasing. What I like to do is get the exposure of my subject close to where I want it. Let me switch to Adobe Vivid. I like using Adobe Vivid as my profile. I think it renders colors the best, but also keeps skin tones looking natural. Little tip here, if you didn't know, if you click this grid, you can actually quickly preview all of the different profiles you can start off with. Add a little contrast to this. Usually only go somewhere between 5 and 10 if I use contrast at all. I like to do most of my contrast work down here in the highlights, shadows, whites and blacks. I think the highlights are looking okay. They're smoothed out a little bit. Sometimes we pull the whites up, can smooth it out even more. That looks better. Let's pull our shadows down. Looks good. And get the blacks almost touching the edge of the histogram there. Perfect. Texture I don't use often. If I do, it's very little. I like to have more control over the sharpening, which we'll get to in a little bit. Clarity slider, everybody loves to jack this up. Please don't do that, it makes people look dirty. I usually set this, depending on the situation, 10 to 15 at most. Dehazing, there's not too much haze, fog, whatever you want to call it, in front of my subject. But I actually want to use it the other way to make this blowout look a little more intentional. And you can see the subject's face is still pretty clear. Take the vibrance up just a little bit, probably around 25. It's a good starting point. I usually don't mess with saturation. Do a quick crop on this. This is bothering me down here. Try not to cut people off where they bend. So here I'm going to go below the knee. And I'm going to center up the subject just a little bit. Leave some headroom. I could have got rid of this, maybe cropped up here, but I think that'd be a little too tight. Let's do a little fine tuning with the tone curve. If you don't know how this works, it's pretty simple to wrap your head around. Over here are your shadows. Over here is the lightest part of the image, and your midtones are in the middle. Duh. Same thing here. Your line, this is your shadows, this is your highlights. So if you want to make your shadows darker, you're just gonna pull your tone curve down right here. If you want to make them brighter, just pull them up this way. But as you'll see, you're still affecting the entire image. you want to add another point. That way you can set your highlights where you want them. And now that's not moving as much up here when you pull your shadows down. That looks good. Pull this up just a little bit. We still have a little space left to pull our blacks down, so let's do that. Just a little touch. There, that's good. I want to desaturate this magenta hue just a little bit. I think it's magenta. It's either magenta or purple. It's both. Just do a little bit at a time. You notice if you go too far, you start getting these gray rings around everything. There, purple out. That's good. I usually don't touch color grading. I know you can do a lot of looks here, but I shoot in more of an editorial style, so I don't usually go for looks. I try to keep the image how I saw it. Now here's where we can sharpen. First thing I like to do before I touch any of these settings is set a mask. And if you hold Option on Mac, as you grab this, you'll see that everything's white. So everything that's white is what is currently being sharpened. This means if there's any noise in your image, you're going to sharpen the noise. So I like to pull this down just till I have most of the subject in white. That looks good. Now I'll zoom in, set my amount. I think 80's good. Usually I don't have to mess with the radius or detail unless you crop in really tight. Looks good. Just a hint of vignetting. That's too much. Even just one, just to give it a little bit of a soft edge. I like to pull the blue hue down a little bit towards teal. You can see up here, starting to give the yellows a little bit more of a red tint. I think this makes skin tones look a little better in some cases. And I'll also pull the saturation up, not too much. As you can see, it's starting to make his face too red. We'll call that one done. So just to recap, when you blow out an image, I think the best thing to do is save what you can and then make those blown out areas softer. It's a dead giveaway when you have these super flat areas of light. And it just looks better if you can kind of fan them out. The next thing I want to cover is shots behind the crowd that have a lot of stuff going on. Not all of your best photos are going to come from the photo pit. Some of my favorites have been from behind the crowd, and you can get the full band or close-ups of the crowd themselves. So when I look at this, there's a lot going on, and I really want to kind of hone in here on Winston, and luckily there's a spotlight above him, so I can show you a quick way that I like to set a mask to kind of make him pop out a little more. Make it pop. First, let's get rid of some of this dead space up top. And I want to keep the guitarist and the bass player and get Winston right here where these lines intersect. But also keep those spotlights at the top because we're going to need them. At least get it close. I want to make sure I have the same amount of space between the edge of the bass player and the guitarist and the edge of the photo. That looks good. Switch to Adobe Vivid. Bring the exposure down a little bit. You see we're losing Winston, but we'll fix that in a second. Contrast up just a hair. Pull the highlights down, try to get this drummer back. We got to be careful of this light though, because it's blown out, and as you see, it's going to start to look weird. We got a really hard area. Could also mask this. I try not to use masks if I don't have to. Pull the highlights down, get a little more of him in there. Actually, gonna take the shadows up on this one a little bit. I think it was making these lights pop a little more. Pull up the whites, kind of fix this light and also give it a little bit of a glow. Looks good. Bring this up just until our blacks aren't crushed. Perfect. Again, doesn't look like there's too much haze in front of Winston, so I don't think we're gonna need to. Now it's making everything worse. So let's take it down, actually. Right around there. Pull the clarity up. Again, go easy on the clarity because people start to look dirty. It's just not what you want to do. I am going to take the texture up just a hair because there's a lot of fine details in this image, just because everything's so small. So let's bring him out a little more. When I have spotlights on people, I like to make a radial gradient mask, pull it out, long and thin, line it up with the light, and match its rotation. Probably about right there. And we'll just bring the exposure up a little bit. That makes it look like it's the light that's lighting him up and not just some random mask that we threw on there, which is kind of what we did. But if your masks match your lights, they look much more natural. Just take our sharpening up, just get it started so we can get this mask. You notice, if you have 0 here, you can't use your mask. So just start the sharpening. That way you can pull your mask out, get it set where you want it. I think right about there it looks good. Just pull this amount up, right about there. It looks good. Now let's see what happens if we take the white balance a little bit more towards yellow, only because we have a lot of flame in the photo here. I think 6500 is probably a good spot. Yeah. Do the old hue pole. That's good. Kind of want to bring this crowd out a little more, so add a linear gradient. With a very, very feathered edge. Pull that up just a little bit. I don't want to go too far because I think it takes away from the stage. I like to have a little bit of darkness down here, but I do want to see them because he's interacting with them. About right there is good. All right, let's move on to the next one. It's time to show the saxophone players some love. Just noticing here, it's a pretty well exposed image. You can tell from the histogram here, it's pretty well spread out. A little heavy on the shadows and blacks, but that's to be expected. I mean, look at the background. I do want to fix this harsh highlight here on his forehead, but overall it's looking pretty good right out of the camera. Let's bring the exposure down just a little bit. Actually bring the contrast down. Highlights down. Actually, let's take those up. shadows up just so we can get a little bit more separation right here around his head. Lights down a little bit. It's kind of taking some of that edge off up here. Get even more separation here from the background by pulling these blacks up. We also got some of the drummer back too. That's good. No haze here, so let's leave that alone. Bring the clarity down a touch just to smooth out the skin. Same thing with texture. That's good. Not too much. Pull our vibrance up to around 15. Now, you notice here if we hover over this area that we want to fix, we can pull the luminance down on the yellow just a little bit, just to take some of that edge off. I don't want to go too far because then skin tones start to look weird. That looks good. Let's add some sharpening to this. Set our mask. Pull our mount up. 170 looks good. Check our crop. Let's try to get Tyler on a third line too. That looks good. Centers up Justin a little better. Now, I'm happy with this, but if we wanted to go for a more of a film look, bring your blacks up to about, usually around 20 is a good starting point. So basically what we're doing here, at least on this line, this dot right here, anything that was 0 now has a value of 20. I'm gonna do the same for our highlights. Anything that has a value of 255, we're gonna bring down to about 235. I'm just gonna type it in, it's easier. And then add just a little bit of an S curve. I usually like to go more yellow when I'm trying to make a film look. I'll leave my vibrance where it is. Pull the saturation down just a little bit. Pull the dehaze down. Give it kind of a dreamy look. Now let's add some yellow just in the shadows there. Unsharpen this. Too much of that digital look going on right now. Add in some grain. Grain is good. I don't like rough grain, but I do like bigger grain. I think we need a little more. There we go. That did it. Take our output up to about 30 on our shadows. All right, on to the next one. Here's a shot where we have good skin tones through most of it. We have this really ugly, kind of oversaturated magenta light on the side of his face. So let's do our basic adjustments first. Put his eyeball here where these two lines meet. Bring our exposure down a little bit. Actually, that's making the light. As you can see, we're blowing the light out and we're going too high. So we're gonna have to get surgical with this. So let's bring this down I'm gonna be careful because here we're crushing the light. Probably about right there. And then we'll fix this later because I really liked the exposure on this side of his face. You don't want this to look too flat. So get rid of all the highlights. I feel like color casts look way worse. That looks good there. Pull our shadows up and our blacks. Haze on this one. Actually, I don't think I need any of this. The camera did a really good job on this image, kind of keeping everything sharp. Bring up the vibrance just a touch. I know it feels counterintuitive because we're making this worse, but fix this down here in a second. There's two ways you can go about this. I'll probably use a combination of both. First thing I'm going to do, figure out, I'm pretty sure this is magenta cast, but there might be some purple too. Yeah, it's magenta and red actually. So let's pull these magenta saturation sliders down. Also the red. That's good. You don't want to do this too far because we're taking all the life out of his skin. Switch over to our purple slider, figure out where the majority of this is, right about here. So let's add some green. You see we're losing his skin tone. We'll fix that in a second. I want to bring these shadows up even more. You can see on the histogram, fairly shadow heavy in this image, which, I mean, he's a black shirt on, black hat, so there's a lot of darkness. That looks good. Now, I do want to fix this. This is kind of disgusting over here. But I have him pretty much where I want him, so let's add a background mask. Did a good job there. Just pull the whites. Actually, we can go down with this one. Really more concerned about right here. I don't want to go too far with that. That looks good. Actually going to just mask that little blob at the top out. There. There's still a cast, but if you look here, it's not as bad as it was. Added a little bit more color to his skin. Can actually fix this magenta hue here on his shirt. I just noticed. Pulling the green, the tint down to green. Not too much because his hat's starting to turn green. There we go. I'm calling this one done. All right, let's move on to something I do a lot, silhouettes. Probably run into these when the sound guy's also running the lights and he works for the venue. I don't think this was the case here, but that was a joke. Or was it? So what I'm trying to do here is find a good spot where this Light behind him softens out. We're getting some subsurface scattering in his fingers, which looks kind of cool. See right here. Just a little subsurface scattering, and also some wraparound light that looks neat, and also these God rays. Let's bring those out just a little bit. Little highlights down. Right about there. Get some of those details back around his hand. I'm going to pull the shadows down just to keep this side of the image dark. Same way with the whites. Soften this transition out even more. Don't take the blacks down too far. Already crushed. Probably right around in here in his guitar, but you can crush things when you're doing silhouettes. Crush it. Now, I know normally clarity will give you more of these God rays when they're present. You gotta be careful because you can make the haze around them look kind of blotchy. That's way too much. Less is more with all of these sliders. Let them work together and don't have one just trying to do the heavy lifting. I'm actually gonna haze this up just a bit. It adds a little bit of ambiance. Let's bring our vibrance up, get that orange tone back. Seeing a little green back here. Let's see where that's setting. Yeah, right around the bottom. So let's just pull that down. Now, ignore this side of the image while you're doing this. Only look here. I think right about there should get rid of it. Now, to get this back to where we were, pull this up. Right about there. That looks good. Now let's really lean into this orange. Add a little bit more orange saturation. Let's see what happens when we add some luminance. Around 20 looks good. Not a ton of small details here, so I don't think we're gonna need to do too much sharpening. Just want to get around the edge of his guitar. You can see we're starting to sharpen some of that noise. Let's make this mask a little more aggressive. That's good. Add just a touch of vignetting here, just to hone in on the subject. Check that crop. I think there's just a little too much headroom. Yeah, let's take him down. Try to get most of his body right on this line. There we go. Now, if you're following along, you'll notice I skipped an image. I'm gonna save the best for last, make you watch the entire video, or just skip to the end. The dreaded red color cast. Before we get to that, I wanted to edit this image. And by edit, I mean basically just bump up the saturation because the Canon R6 Mark II did a great job capturing this image. And this is straight out of the camera. Pretty proud of the camera, not myself for getting this one. Switch over to Adobe Vivid. Bring the exposure down a little bit. Basically what I want to do here, accentuate this highlight here and get some of this color back above his head. I know the highlights are going to have to come down. You can see we're already starting to get, but look. This part's blown out. let's soften that again. Bring our shadows up just to get some detail right here. Now there's plenty of room if we wanted to get some detail on the side of his face, but I kind of like having that side in darkness. Let's undo that so I can put it back where I had it. Pull the whites down just a little bit. Just get the blacks uncrushed. There we go. I'm actually going to take the dehaze down a little bit just to add some haziness to it. Pull the clarity up. Look at his glasses. Just adding some detail back right here. Also, watch this line right here. Adding a nice separation here between these dark and light areas. Don't want to go too crazy with it. People start to look dirty. Please, for the love of God, go easy on the clarity slider. 20 will do you. Just a touch of sharpening around the edges. And pull up the blue saturation. I think the crop's even pretty good. Could probably center them just a little better. I like this light, so. Hey, that's it. I know y'all been waiting for this one, the dreaded color wash. This one's actually not terrible. I've seen worse. I know your first instinct is going to be to find something black or white or anywhere in between. Use your eyedropper tool. Watch this. We're close, but we can't go any further here. We're getting too green and it is not fixing his skin. What are we gonna do? See here? Still have a red cast on his skin. It's sitting kind of lower midtones. So we want to subtract this red, which would take us down into teal. And right about there looks good. Gotta be careful. This one did a pretty good job. I don't want his teeth to turn blue. Let's actually do this a little more. Let's see what this highlight is. All right, so we need to go a little more here too. There we go. Skin tone's a little darker than that. I'm going to show you why you shouldn't mess with your tone curve first. Because I actually want to make this image brighter. But look what happens. That red's coming back. That is because all of these adjustments I made, I don't want it this bright, I'm just doing this to prove a point. All these adjustments I made are sitting at these luminance levels. When I pull my exposure up, my luminance levels are shifting, but the tone curve isn't. So now I have to redo this. So always set your exposure first, then get into your tone curve. Basically work top down. Forgot to switch to Vivid. Unbelievable. So let's start this over completely. Set our exposure, which is kind of hard to do with a color cast. Go up to about 80. Uncrush the whites. Look up here though. These nasty lights. Let's just fade those out a little bit so they're as clean as we can get them. Blacks up. Let's haze this a bit. All right, now let's get rid of this red, or at least tone it down. I don't want to go too far because he starts to turn green. See how we're kind of up higher in that tone curve now? That's why you need to set your exposure first before you start playing with this. That looks good. Now if you do want to change your exposure, you can make little micro adjustments in the tone curve. I think that looks good. Let's crop this. This actually wasn't the best photo in the world, but I just wanted to show you how to fix the dreaded red color cast. Put the clarity up a little bit. Let's bring this luminance level down. There we go, that's looking a little more natural. Perfect. Sharpening. Weird edge around his head. Take that sharpening down to lessen it a little bit. There we go. And some blue saturation. There. Got rid of that nasty red hue. Skin tone that looks a little more natural. All right. Well, I'm out of photos to edit here, and hope you enjoyed the video, learned something. If you want to see anything else, how I edit, please leave a comment below. Reach out to me on Instagram. Send me an email. Whatever you want to do. Thanks for watching. Yeah. Subscribe too.